one sheet of plywood to make all this storage. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in for another one of my projects. This is the second project I've made for my daughter's room recently. If you haven't seen the desk I built her, I'll put a link below so you can check that out. All you've seen me do so far is break down my pieces into more manageable strips. The goal is to be as efficient with this material as possible, so I took my time designing these shelves so I could get the most amount of shelves possible out of one sheet. Let's jump to this animation so I can show you how I broke it down. I started by cutting my sheet lengthwise into 4 strips. 3 strips at 12 inches wide and 1 strip at 10 inches wide. Then I could set up my stop block and cross cut everything to 10 inches deep. From one sheet of plywood, I was able to get 10 shelves. 2 shelves at 10 inches by 10 inches and 6 shelves at 10 inches by 12 inches. So the plan all along was to paint the shelves, so I could have just done butt joints with the MDF, but to limit the amount of exposed edges, I decided to go with miters. I'll show you a trick later on how I make painting the MDF easier. Now, this is actually LMDF, not just MDF. LMDF is light density fiberboard. I get this from my local hardwood dealer. Most big box stores will only carry MDF, which is medium density. I find the light density will work just the same, but it's a heck of a lot lighter, which I guess makes sense. With all my miters cut, I added a rabbet on the back 3/4 of an inch in. I need this space to be able to hide the French cleat, which again, I'll show you a little bit later on. The least expensive material that I have found to use to make drawer bottoms or backings for shelves like this is mahogany door skins. Last step before assembling was to cut my French cleat material, which was 3/4 of an inch scraps of plywood. I labeled all my pieces A and B, so I knew which part of the French cleat would be attaching to the box shelf and which would attach to the wall. No surprise, I had a massive brain fart as I was assembling the first box and just assembled it with brad nails. This was not the best way to do this. When I got a clue on the second box, I broke out the painter's tape and used this for clamping pressure to assemble the boxes correctly. It might be hard to see, but I also clamped down a 4-foot level as a straight edge to keep all my pieces aligned while I was doing the glue up and adding the tape. This is a way simpler way to assemble. Now, here is my trick when painting MDF. The raw edge of MDF is thirsty. So take regular wood glue and dilute it just slightly with a bit of water and then paint it onto the edges. This creates a barrier on the edge of the material so the paint won't try to absorb. If you're enjoying the work that I'm doing, I would super appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button. YouTube only shares the kind of videos that people like you watch, and this is the easiest way that you can help me grow. Thanks. So at this point I was able to attach the French cleat to the back of each of the boxes, and you'll notice that I'm leaving a gapping on each side. I'll show you why I did that a little bit later on. With the construction of the boxes complete, I could start moving on to all the finishing. I had a few other things I was working on, so I was able to recruit my daughter and my wife to finish the painting of the boxes. And with that, I was ready to start hanging them on her wall.
I also think it's super important that I show you guys how I hung these boxes. With the French cleat system, you have to do some funny measuring to make sure that they line up in the right way, especially if you want to do a pattern like what we're doing, where some of the boxes are offset and inset just depending on the depth. So let me show you how I did that.
Off camera, I pre-drilled all the holes for the French cleat part that would attach to the wall, and I measured from the top of the box down to get my measurements so I would know what to use for an offset on each of the boxes. I also broke out the SketchUp plan so I could follow along with the pattern that I had laid out on her wall. And to give you a reference point, this is where I'm starting my measurements from to mount the boxes to the wall. So I know going from the measurement that I have from the wall away, which is 8 inches, and from the wall to the ceiling is about 14 inches. That's my start mark. And I have to measure with the first set of screw holes over about 2 inches and then down about 3 5/8 to figure out where I would put my first screw. So I'm gonna do that right now. I'm also using a stud finder, not that it's really going to help me based on where my first marks are, but if there is a chance I can put one of these into the stud, I'm definitely going to try and do that. Now to make measuring easier, I actually use this as a template. This is one of the French cleats, and all I'm doing is putting the one end into the hole, and I have screws on both sides. I find level, and then I'm just pressing in on the other side right here so I can mark out where the second wall anchor needs to be. All right, so it shouldn't come as a surprise that these walls are not level. That's why with the French cleats, I made them so I could adjust them left to right so I could line everything up, and I had a bit of wiggle room for forgiveness in the walls. I'm gonna stop standing on my tippy toes now. Again, following my SketchUp file made this pretty easy to do. It probably took me all of 40 minutes to hang all these boxes and get them all in the right place. My daughter's pretty excited about the renovations in her room. If you like this video, I've queued up a couple others here for you to check out. Thanks again for watching, guys, and we'll see you on the next build.